looks good, actually.
No, you don't look that good.
Look how the light is nice.
Fix your beard. Get some nose hairs coming out there.
Out of my ear? Good morning, good morning. We're talking this morning, Michael and I was asking him a couple of things, and instead of asking him and then go live, I said, let's go live. And we were talking about how culture judges men for wanting to date foreign women. And I said, what culture? And he talked about America. And we'll go into it, and I'll ask you about it. Because
I just want to say, and I'm also going to bring a bigger context of how culture shamed, how culture works.
You don't know my questions yet.
Inside of us, well, I titled mine, about the culture war. So I'm also thinking in the back of my mind, Black Lives Matter, the culture wars in the States. I mean, I'm going to weave it together. So go ahead.
I'm not going to have any part of this. My experience of this, I started traveling only when I was 33, the past 12 years, say. And I always had an affinity for also more foreign women, more than Belgian women, with the little experience that I had in Belgium, And good, nonetheless, as for your mom. And how to do it?
What?
That's right. And who are you gonna please with that? Me. But and then I started traveling, like the last 12 years, and I met a lot of foreign women, and it's just a completely different dating scene when I went to Romania, when I went to Bucharest, when I went to Medellin, Colombia, when I went to Tokyo, Japan. And I was like, wow, there's all these different ways of dating out there, and I feel more welcome. And why haven't I done this before? Why didn't I travel before? And as we're talking about the judgment that a culture has for dating foreign women, I was wondering, did my culture judge me for dating foreign women? And I think, no, I never saw that as an issue. What the issue was with us is that we're not really there's no stimulation of it. I didn't know that was a possibility. I didn't see that I could travel in my life. I didn't see that I could date foreign women. But then you say that in the States, it's a lot worse, that there's a demonizing or a judgment of dating foreign women. And I ask you, where do you see it? Where is this happening? Where do you feel that judgment of dating foreign women as an American man?
And I wouldn't say dating foreign women, just dating foreign women, but going abroad to date foreign women, or mostly that. So if the foreign women live in the States, that's not
right.
That's not the deal. But I would also say that the way I see it, American culture is very you look at the culture wars going on now, and there's something in American culture where we have these high ideals about who we should be and who we shouldn't be. And there's not really, it doesn't really occur to most people to say, well, I'm not happy here with the dating scene, or with my level of freedom, or with the economic opportunities, or with the politics. I'm just going to go live in Mexico, or I'm just going to go live in Japan. Or
that's interesting, because if Belgians have one thing, the great consequence of being conquered by any other country, German, Dutch, French, Spanish, Austrian, anything, we have a very much looking outside, even in the way our culture or TV is, we see all kinds of things from the States, from the East, and we get all these influences.
We're just really good at bending over and just taking it.
Yeah.
So
So this is one of the good advantages of that, I would say, that we're not Belgian centric.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, you have the European Union there, so you have, a lot of international presence there, and it's just a tiny country relative to a lot of other countries. And it's right there in, it's kind of like three different languages and cultures there, right?
Yes.
You have French, you have the Dutch or Flemish, right? And what's the other one? German. And I mean, just right
and
there.
everyone speaks English.
And everyone speaks English as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you're right next door to a bunch of other countries. So, for you guys going to England or Scotland or something, that's like someone who lives in Texas going to Utah. It's not that far away. And but for Americans, it's all one country, and it's not so different. And I think there's I grew up Mormon, and oftentimes you would see the people with the strongest most defensive belief are the converts, the new people that are like, they have less like groundedness in it. So like they really hang on to it. And I think you also see this with like, you see some of these, there's been in America, there's been these two white people who they've pretended to be black. And they were some of the ones fighting the hardest for black people's rights. Rachel Dolezal and this founder of this one of the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement.
How does one pretend to be black?
Well,
I'm thinking Ali G,
Yeah.
Is it because I'm black? Is it like...
So I
see a white guy
a way of... One was a male, one was a female.
Yes.
They're not related. But they just did their hair in a certain way. I guess they acted in a certain way. They really made an extra effort to take up black issues.
Okay. And they just act black or what?
Well, yeah, I guess. And so, but my point is that America is very young. We're all converts to America in a way.
Yes.
We've kind of all just come there. We all want to fit in. And so, and people are so quick to leave their culture behind, leave their language behind, leave their traditions behind to blend in.
Yes.
And so you have this dynamic where it's more aggressive. It's more, and it's also, I think, a Protestant thing, but I tie this in as well. The Protestants,
I'm lost.
When they left the Catholic religion and they said, okay, we have, you try to establish a new authority for a new church. Protestant religions are constantly splitting and creating new religion, new church, new one. And for me, I see this in part as a reflection of, and they're also very much like, if you disobey a little bit, like you're cast out. Mm-hmm. It's a very kind of fragile group because it doesn't have the long tradition of the Catholic Church, for example, that has that longer sense of authority, like going back to Jesus and all that kind of stuff. It's a much more fragile claim to authority. So the beginning, as soon as it begins challenged, then you ostracize the people who are challenging it.
Okay, and you say that's what's going on with the States too.
Yes.
They're still forming, let's say, the American identity. And in the forming of the identity, the border control is so important. It's like in the protection of the borders that your identity becomes clearer. And so there are a lot more, because they don't have the history, they got to work on it. So we got to do a lot of border control. So if I feel that you're in any way against me, or you're not 100% agreeing, you're against me. And so it's a lot more antagonizing energy.
Yeah, your identity is more fragile.
Yes.
And so you're a lot more combative and a lot more quicker to cast someone out.
And so in that, so a lot more antagonizing to what could be not part of you, or what could be not 100% part of you. And so therefore also a quicker judgment of what is strange, what is different, what is outside. And so a quick judgment of those men that are apart from your culture and that would dare to go and look elsewhere for more happiness and welcoming something like this?
Yeah, well, I think it's a factor in how America is, and you see the culture wars going on over there right now. But let me just say that, I mean, there are many cultures that judge the local people for dating outside of their race or outside of their nationality. I mean, I think actually most countries, especially once you leave like the West, the US, Canada, Australia, Western Europe, even there's a lot of people in there who, regardless of what color they are, or religion, you have different religions and some families that are a certain color that don't want you to date outside of the race or the religion.
More homogenous a culture is, more xenophobic it is. Less you have strangers, more you have fear of strangers, and racism. In Belgium, it's funny that the most racist party, starts and has its stronghold in the place where there are the least amount of foreigners.
Yes. So let me bring this up as a solution. What if
we all pretend to be bad?
No, we honor racism.
We honor racism.
Yes, and I don't mean what you might think I mean, right?
What?
But we honor that people have different prejudices,
yes,
different desires,
yes,
different ways of living. In the U.S., we judge people if a bunch of white people say they only want to live with white people in their neighborhood or whatever, right. They're racist bad, we got to get rid of them.
Right.
If a bunch of black people want to just live with black people, they're racist, we need to get rid of them. Although it's not, we don't call black people racist anymore. And so what we're trying to do is force everyone to have no prejudice as a solution. We're trying to, imagine we're in this house.
Right.
And we've got a bunch of people here. And we're trying to force everyone to have a certain set of values.
Right.
And a certain set of beliefs. But every 4 years we can vote for a whole new way to force everyone to adopt a whole new way.
Right.
It would be a very antagonistic, kind of violent place.
Yes.
But what if we just instead said, you know what? Everyone who's in this house, if you want to live next door or across the street or wherever, you can go anywhere. You can go where you're happy.
Yes.
You don't have to live here, and we don't all have to get along, and we don't all have to abide by the same values and beliefs. We can just go where we're happy.
I have a two-prong approach, and yours is great. First, the acceptance of where we're at, where say we have prejudice. We're racist in a way.
You have prejudice. You're racist. Me, I'm not. But I'll accept you for that. I won't judge you.
Is it because I'm black? Two-prong approach. This, you accept that it is a natural thing to be racist, to have prejudice, and to think I'm better than the other.
And just to clarify, because there's a lot of different ways of thinking about racism, but I think what we would say is to have a bias, to have a prejudice, to have preferences that
the judgment is normal. It is a way how we navigate things, how we know. But you got to be ready to suspend that judgment. And here's the second part of the two-prong approach. I just thought of it this morning. What if we forced all our young adolescents, before they become real citizens, before they get married, before they start a career, before they buy a house, you have to go 1 year obligatory travel. You have to get out of the country, see what's out there, and then you can come back, and you can choose to live in America or not. You don't have to come back, and
which, because of course, I totally detest the forcing part, but I love the idea. And I think it's a good idea in terms of a family or a community. And the Amish do this as well. We were talking about this morning. How you grow up Amish, and then I forget what they call it, but at a certain age, they send you away. You go live in the world for a year with the worldly people. You can do whatever you want, sleep with people, have drugs, whatever. And then you have a choice. You can come back and commit to the Amish way of life and join the community, or you can stay out and be free. I think it's incredible. It's a great idea.
What if America does that? I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I think.
And because what I've seen is like that, nothing has changed, has taken away my judgments more away than traveling. Mm-hmm. You're like, well, yeah, there's so much out there. There's so many different ways of looking at things. It's just, what are we thinking?
Yes.
And you learn to walk other people's shoes, and it's impossible to hate someone when you know them better. It's impossible. And that's what travel does.
It can also make it a lot more likely you live it long enough. And,
with some people. I didn't know that I hated you so much.
Yes. Well, now you do, so you can leave. Go travel, okay?
Go back to my country.
So,
a two-pronged approach. I like this. We're accepting racism as a natural way of dealing things. We legalize racism. And we
honor racism.
Honor racism. And young adults are pushed out of the nest, have to travel for a year. And then they can come back, make choices to live there, to work there, to marry there.
Well, of course, we're exaggerating a little bit when we say honor racism, but honoring that people have different beliefs, desires, ways to live their life, different biases, different prejudices. Why can't we just let people live how they want? And the idea being then, they don't feel forced. We're not all feeling forced by each other and judged by each other to conform, to obey, to change. And then there's far less aggression, far less animosity. And what has to go along with it is this, for example, in America, every 4 years, we all vote and the majority gets to force a minority to adopt their new ways of life. We should get rid of that. Let people, let people form their own, let people be governed by the people that they want to govern them. Mm. More like a Native American kind of a thing where, an authority is not someone on the top forcing everyone else to do their bidding.
Like right now, I had a topic like 2 minutes ago, and I'm bringing it anyway. What honoring does is the opposite of how we do our discussions, which is right or wrong. It's right or wrong, and that's how we discuss. You're right, I'm right, you're wrong, and honoring is the opposite of that. So
I honor when you're wrong.
Instead of saying, "Oh, your racism is wrong," which is also a judgment. As much as the racism is a judgment, you're judging the judger. There's no way out of that. You cannot judge each other out of an argument. The only way is to honor, which means not saying honoring doesn't mean it's right to be racist. No, it means what does it mean to be racist, and where does it come from, and like that is the starting point, and to not judge it for right or wrong. So yeah, honor racism, go on a year sabbatical.
Well,
go travel.
The way that
finishing it.
The way that culture works is through shaming. And what it is, it's the threat of being ostracized. It's the threat of being cast out. So if I'm judging you as racist or as whatever, the threat is very much a survival threat. It's the first step is the way I look at you and the way I start talking about you to the other people. I could potentially have violence enacted towards me if you guys are shaming me and talking about me, or kicked out of the community. And these are very much like a survival threat. And this is, I could talk so much about this, but the U.S., we honor free speech, whereas many other cultures, they honor like not shaming and humiliating people in public. And these two are kind of at war. And because we're such proponents for free speech, this is another great factor in why American culture is so aggressive and divided. So, but a direction for a solution is honor first. First start with honoring rather than starting with the moral judgment. And I really feel like I've been preparing my whole life for these times when America is starting to become so, not starting, but, when things are really starting to come to a head more and more and more with the culture wars. So to bring back to your question, for the men who are feeling like judged if I leave.
Yes.
And there are many judgments. I'm unpatriotic. I'm a loser. Oh, that guy, he can't get women, the local women. And maybe he just likes, in America right now, there's a big thing like judging. If I like Asian women, I'm fetishizing Asian women. This is a very bad thing these days.
You also bring the coronavirus.
If I date Asian women, and that's a stretch. That's a stretch for a funny joke. Okay, so we might be losing the conversation here.
Bring it back.
So
American men are judged for it.
So for American men who simply have a desire to date foreign women, right? Or wait, let's bring it back. And they're not happy. You don't need to sit and be angry. You don't need to blame the local women. You don't need to blame your culture. You don't need to just sit and be angry or fight or try to change things or try to change women or try to change yourself. A very simple, mutually honoring solution is go where you're wanted. Yes. And where you want the local people.
Or if you really want to honor and make your choice for an American woman valid, what's your choice for an American woman worth if you haven't tasted anything else? If you choose this is the best wine in the world and you've only drank that wine, I'm not going to trust your choice. You say, I choose between 20 wines, this is my favorite wine. I trust you. So.
Oh, why stop at 20? There's like 200 countries.
Like, huh?
Well, why would I trust you if you've only tasted 20 when there's like 200?
So what America does is judging the wine connoisseur who wants to make a more informed choice, and they say, no, you can be a wine connoisseur, but you can only taste one wine, and then you tell us what's your best wine. It's ridiculous. Go and taste different
American wines. Woman, stay away from me.